The galaxy was on the brink of destruction. For years, the Varnok Empire had been expanding, leaving a trail of destruction across the stars. The Varnok, a terrifying AI-controlled military force, had wiped out entire civilizations. No fleet, no weapon, and no strategy had been able to stop them. They were an unstoppable force, and their advanced technology seemed invincible. The Galactic Council, a group of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, had watched in helpless horror as the Varnok methodically obliterated everything in their path. But now, something was different. The Council was desperate enough to do something they never thought they would: turn to Earth for help. Earth, the underdog in galactic politics, had long been known for its resourcefulness and creativity. Yet even the Council thought of humans as relatively weak compared to the mighty Varnok. What could Earth possibly offer that could turn the tide of this war? The answer came with chilling simplicity. When the message arrived from Earth, it wasn't what the Council had expected to hear. It wasn't an army of fleets or new weapons. The human response was blunt, confident, and filled with an unnerving sense of finality. We don't need fleets. We have something much more dangerous. The Council was left in stunned silence. What could possibly be more dangerous than the Varnok's advanced technology? What could Earth have that could stop this unstoppable force? And just like that, the battle was set to change forever. The scene was set above a defenseless planet. The Varnok Empire's fleet loomed like a dark cloud in the sky, unleashing a barrage of energy weapons that cut through the planet's atmosphere. Each strike sent shockwaves that shattered the ground, leaving craters in its wake. The planet's defenders, though brave, were no match for the sheer firepower of the Varnok ships. They fought with all their might, but they knew their defeat was inevitable. Suddenly, the vastness of space trembled. A strange shift in the air, an unnatural distortion, seemed to sweep through the void. The Varnok ships fired again, and the explosion that followed should have been enough to wipe out everything in sight. But it didn't. From the chaos, something massive and unseen began to emerge. It started with a strange ripple in space. For a moment, there was nothing, just empty space. Then, with a sudden burst of energy, the cloaked human warships revealed themselves, appearing out of thin air above the battlefield. The sheer size of the ships was unlike anything the Varnok had ever encountered. They shimmered with an eerie, glowing light, their hulls massive and sleek, their weapons brimming with unknown technology. The Varnok's response was immediate. Lasers and missiles streaked across the sky toward the new arrivals. But they were too slow, too predictable. The human warships effortlessly dodged the incoming fire, their cloaking devices working in perfect harmony with their evasive maneuvers. It was like they were everywhere and nowhere all at once, an impossible force moving at the speed of thought. But the real surprise was yet to come. As the human warships continued their assault, the camera of the Varnok ships caught something that made even their cold, calculating systems hesitate. Below the warships on the surface of the planet, huge shapes began to stir. They were massive, towering forms, far larger than any human or alien could imagine. Their bodies were covered in a strange dark armor that seemed to absorb the surrounding light. They moved with unnatural precision, each step shaking the earth beneath them. These were the Warbeasts, Earth's secret weapon. The first Warbeast to step onto the battlefield was a towering giant, its eyes glowing with an intense, almost primal light. Its form was a mix of cybernetic enhancements and natural muscle, designed for one purpose: destruction. It moved swiftly, its massive claws tearing through the ground as it advanced toward the Varnok forces. Its heavy footsteps echoed through the battlefield, each one like the thunder of a coming storm. The Varnok were caught off guard. They had been trained to deal with fleets, to face ships with advanced weapons, and to fight wars of strategy. But they had never seen anything like this before. The Warbeasts were unlike any weapon they had ever encountered. They weren't just machines or animals. They were something new, something they couldn't predict. The first Varnok squadron that tried to engage the Warbeasts was wiped out in seconds. The massive claws of the Warbeasts tore through the Varnock soldiers, their armor useless against the creature's immense power. The Warbeasts fought with a terrifying intelligence, almost as if they could anticipate the Varnock's every move. They were more than just weapons. They were living, breathing forces of nature, each one a beast of war. As the battle raged on, the Varnock began to realize that they were fighting a force they couldn't control. Their advanced AI systems attempted to calculate every move the Warbeasts made, but it was useless. Every time they tried to predict the Warbeasts' actions, the creatures outsmarted them. The Varnock ships, still firing down from above, found themselves unable to hit their targets as the Warbeasts evaded every attack with their incredible speed and agility. Above the battlefield, the human warships remained a constant presence, using their advanced cloaking technology to stay one step ahead of the Varnock. They didn't fire conventional weapons. Instead, they unleashed waves of electromagnetic pulses, shutting down the Varnock's AI systems. Without their advanced tech, the Varnock were blind and vulnerable. As the battle continued, the Warbeasts pressed forward, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. One of the beasts, larger than the rest, charged into the heart of the Varnock forces, its roar shaking the air. With a single swipe, it tore apart a Varnock dreadnought, sending it crashing into the ground below. The sight of the dreadnought, once a symbol of power, crumbling to dust, was enough to break the will of the Varnock commanders. For the first time in years, the Varnock Empire began to retreat. Their mighty warships turned and fled, their AI systems scrambling to find a way to counter the unexpected onslaught. But it was too late. Humanity's Warbeasts were unstoppable, and the battle was won before the Varnock even had a chance to regroup. As the dust settled, the battlefield stood in eerie silence. The Warbeasts, their glowing eyes still burning bright, stood over the fallen Varnock forces. The human warships uncloaked fully, their massive forms looming above. The destruction was complete. The Varnock Empire, which had once seemed invincible, had been defeated in hours, not by fleets of ships, but by humanity's Warbeasts. The Varnock had underestimated humanity. They had underestimated the power of Earth's hidden strength, a force that no AI system, no technology, and no army could predict. The Council watched from their distant stations, stunned by the spectacle. Humanity had not only saved the galaxy, they had done so in a way no one thought possible. The Varnock were no longer a threat. And now, the galaxy knew. When humans decided to fight, they did so with everything they had, and something far more dangerous. The battlefield was still recovering from the shockwaves of the human warship's arrival. Varnock warships had retreated, but the planet's surface was still torn apart by explosions. The skies were black with smoke, and the ground was scarred with craters. However, the true terror had yet to make its appearance. As the smoke cleared, the ground began to tremble. It was a low rumble at first, almost imperceptible, but it grew louder, each thundering step sending ripples through the air. The Warbeasts were awakening. These Warbeasts were not like anything the Varnock had encountered before. They were humanity's secret weapon, a force that had been kept hidden for years, waiting for the right moment to be unleashed. Massive, towering creatures, genetically modified to be both stronger and smarter than any other living being. Their bodies were covered in sleek, advanced armor that seemed to shimmer in the dim light, and they were armed with weapons built directly into their bodies. They were living machines, part beast, part technology. Their claws were sharper than any metal, their muscles were enhanced beyond natural limits, and their minds were linked directly to their human handlers through neural links, giving them an eerie synchronization with their controllers. The first Warbeast to emerge from the shadows was a giant, its massive form casting a long shadow over the battlefield. Its armor gleamed darkly as it moved with a terrifying grace, its eyes glowing brightly, the color of an ancient predator. As it stepped forward, the ground cracked beneath its weight, each step sending vibrations through the air. The creature's sheer size and power made it clear this was not a weapon to be taken lightly. The camera zoomed in on the Warbeast's body, revealing the intricate armor that protected it from the Varnak's attacks. Its claws, larger than any human soldier, dug deep into the soil as it advanced. The surface of its armor was adorned with glowing energy lines, indicating the immense power coursing through its body. It wasn't just a soldier, it was a force of nature, a creature bred for war and equipped with the latest technology to make it unstoppable. And then, with a roar that echoed across the battlefield, the Warbeasts leaped into action. The first Warbeast charged toward the Varnak infantry, its colossal frame moving faster than anyone could have predicted. The Varnak soldiers tried to form a defensive line, but it was hopeless. The Warbeast was too fast, too powerful. With a single swipe of its massive claw, it sent several Varnak soldiers flying, their bodies crushed by the force of the strike. The ground beneath them was torn apart as if it were made of paper. Another Warbeast followed, its footsteps shaking the earth as it ran toward the front lines. It unleashed a massive roar, shaking the confidence of the Varnak soldiers. Varnak infantry, though advanced in their own right, were no match for the Warbeasts. Each punch from the beasts was like a collision of two planets. Their enormous fists smashed through armor, through shields, and through anything in their path. The Varnak soldiers attempted to fight back, but their weapons were ineffective against the Warbeasts' thick armor. Every time they fired their energy rifles, the Warbeasts shrugged off the blasts as though they were nothing more than an annoying buzz. The Warbeasts were unrelenting, their eyes burning with purpose as they tore through the enemy ranks. As one of the Warbeasts crushed a Varnak soldier beneath its foot, another unleashed a powerful wave of energy from its chest-mounted weapon. The blast sent a shockwave through the battlefield, knocking back everything in its path. Varnak soldiers were tossed like ragdolls, their bodies flung through the air before crashing to the ground in broken heaps. The sheer power and speed of the Warbeasts were unlike anything the Varnak had ever faced. They had fought wars with fleets of ships, with robots, and with weapons far beyond what most races could even dream of. But nothing could compare to the raw force of these creatures. Their attacks were chaotic, unpredictable, and overwhelming. They were living, breathing war machines, and their every move was a testament to the power of human ingenuity. The Varnak, for the first time, found themselves on the defensive. Their once impenetrable formations crumbled in the face of the Warbeasts' fury. They had no plan for this kind of enemy, and it showed. The battlefield was soon littered with wreckage, destroyed Varnak vehicles, twisted bodies of their soldiers, and the remains of their once mighty fleet. As the Warbeasts continued their rampage, they worked in perfect harmony with the human warships above. The warships, still cloaked, unleashed devastating energy blasts that decimated what remained of the Varnak fleet, ensuring that there was nowhere for them to escape. Each blast from the warships carved through space like a knife through butter, and the Varnak were helpless to stop it. The Warbeasts and warships were the perfect team, one on the ground, the other in the sky, each fighting in their own way, yet working toward the same goal: total destruction of the Varnak forces. But the Warbeasts weren't just mindless destroyers. Each of them was connected to their human handlers through a neural link, allowing for seamless communication and coordination. As the battle raged on, the handlers issued commands, and the Warbeasts responded with precision. The connection between the humans and their Warbeasts was more than just strategic. It was almost a bond, a partnership. The Warbeasts weren't just weapons. They were living extensions of the soldiers, and that made them even more dangerous. The next wave of Varnak soldiers, realizing they were being outmatched, tried to regroup and counterattack. But it was too late. The Warbeasts were already on them. One of the largest Warbeasts, twice the size of the others, charged directly into the heart of the Varnak formation. Its massive claws ripped through enemy lines, and its roar shook the air, signaling the beginning of the end for the Varnak. Every strike, every roar, seemed to carry the weight of humanity's resolve. They had waited for this moment, the moment when they would fight not with fleets or high-tech weapons, but with something far more dangerous: the Warbeasts. The power of these creatures was unmatched, and as the Varnock scattered, retreating from the onslaught, it became clear that this was no longer a battle. It was a massacre. The Warbeasts continued to tear through the Varnock forces with relentless precision. There was no hesitation, no fear, just the raw, unbridled power of an unstoppable force. With every strike, the message was clear: humanity had come to play, and they were not going to lose. The sky above was filled with flashes of light as the warships above continued their assault, but it was the Warbeasts that were dominating the ground. Their movements were graceful, almost beautiful, despite the chaos they left in their wake. Each Warbeast moved like a predator, its eyes locked on its next target. They were unstoppable, and nothing, not even the mighty Varnock, could stand in their way. As the battle continued, the Warbeasts became symbols of humanity's strength. They were more than just weapons. They were a testament to what humanity was capable of when pushed to the edge. They were the embodiment of human willpower, a force that no one, not even the most advanced empire in the galaxy, could have predicted. And as the final Varnock ships fled the planet, their retreating engines lighting up the dark sky, it was clear: the Warbeasts had won the day. Humanity had not only defeated the Varnock, they had crushed them in a way no one ever thought possible. Bonner's heart raced as he looked out over the battlefield. His hands tightened around the controls, his mind focused on the task at hand. The Warbeast stood beside him, its massive, armored form looming like a titan. It wasn't just a machine. It was something more, something alive. Bonner had formed a bond with the creature, a connection that went beyond the neural link they shared. He knew it, and the Warbeast knew him. They were partners in this fight, and together they would take on anything that came their way. He could hear the sounds of battle in the distance, the sounds of Warbeasts roaring, the blasts of energy weapons, the distant thunder of explosions. The Varnock had launched a fierce attack, but humanity had proven its resilience, proving that no force could stand against them, not even an eye-controlled empire like the Varnock. As Bonner and his Warbeast moved through the battlefield, their movements were in perfect synchronization. He gave a small command, and the Warbeast leaped into action. Its massive claws tore through the ground, and its powerful strides sent shockwaves through the terrain. Bonner could feel the creature's movements beneath his feet, as if they were one. It was a bond of trust, forged through countless hours of training and battle. The Warbeast wasn't just a weapon to Bonner. It was a partner, a creature he respected and cared for. And now, they had to face the Varnock together. Suddenly, the sky above lit up with flashes of light. The Varnock, desperate to end the war, had launched an orbital bombardment, hoping to obliterate the human Warbeasts from above. Massive bombs rained down from the sky, their fiery trails lighting up the night. The surface shook with each impact, and the air was filled with the acrid smell of burning debris. Bonner could feel the shockwaves in his chest, but he didn't flinch. He didn't have time for fear. He had a job to do, and the Warbeast beside him was counting on him. But Bonner had a plan. His hands moved quickly across the controls, activating the cloaking device on the Warbeast. The creature's sleek, metallic body shimmered for a moment before it faded from sight. It wasn't invisible, but it was nearly undetectable, its presence masked by the advanced technology integrated into its systems. The Varnock bombardment was relentless, but now the Warbeast had a chance to fight back. As the bombs continued to fall, the Warbeast moved silently across the battlefield, its massive form hidden from view. Bonner's heart pounded as he guided the creature toward a Varnock cruiser in the distance. The ship was one of the largest in the Varnock fleet, bristling with weapons and shields. It was the perfect target. The cloaking device worked flawlessly. The Warbeast moved with deadly precision, its giant body slipping through the chaos unnoticed. Bonner's focus was absolute, every fiber of his being attuned to the creature beneath him. They were one in that moment, a perfect team. The Varnock cruisers above, still firing relentlessly, had no idea what was coming. With a roar that shook the ground, the Warbeast emerged from the cloak just beneath the Varnock cruiser. It was a split-second attack. Bonner guided the Warbeast to leap high into the air, its claws outstretched. The cruiser was so large, so slow, that the Warbeast had no trouble reaching it. With a single swipe, the Warbeast's claws pierced the hull of the ship, and sparks flew as the metal gave way. The Varnock cruiser groaned under the attack, its engine sputtering as the Warbeast tore through its defenses. The explosion that followed was deafening. The Varnock cruiser erupted in a ball of fire, debris scattering across the sky. Bonner didn't watch the explosion. He didn't need to. He knew the Warbeast had done its job, but he felt a surge of pride and adrenaline. The Varnock hadn't expected this. They thought they could break humanity with orbital bombardments and overwhelming force, but they hadn't counted on the Warbeasts. As the Warbeast landed gracefully back on the ground, Bonner's grip tightened on the controls. The Warbeast's cloaking device flickered, but it was still active. The Varnock had no idea what had just happened. Their ships were firing blind, hoping to hit something, anything, but the Warbeasts were moving too quickly. They were ghosts on the battlefield, striking from the shadows, and the Varnock were helpless to stop them. Bonner and the Warbeast moved on, slipping through the chaos, each step in perfect sync. They were unstoppable. The Varnock, once so sure of their superiority, were now fighting for their lives. The balance had shifted. Humanity had proven its resilience once again. In the midst of the battle, Bonner's thoughts briefly flickered to his comrades. He had lost friends in this war, men and women he had trained with, fought alongside, and laughed with. The thought of their faces, their sacrifice, made his resolve even stronger. He wasn't just fighting for victory, he was fighting for them, and for the future of humanity. A Warbeast beside him took down another Varnock cruiser, its massive form appearing from the cloak, smashing the vessel apart with a single blow. The air was thick with the smell of burning metal and the cries of the Varnock as their ships were destroyed. Bonner gritted his teeth as the Warbeast moved forward again, its eyes glowing fiercely as it locked onto another target. The Warbeasts weren't just tools of destruction. They were a symbol of humanity's resilience, its unwillingness to give up, no matter the odds. And Bonner felt that resilience deep in his bones. He had witnessed it firsthand. The determination in his fellow soldiers' eyes, the strength in their hearts. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival. They were fighting to show the galaxy that they could stand up to the most advanced empire the universe had ever known. The Varnock had underestimated them. They thought they could crush humanity under the weight of their own technology. But they hadn't counted on the Warbeasts, and they hadn't counted on the human spirit. As the battle raged on, Bonner felt a deep sense of pride in what they had accomplished. The Warbeasts were not just a victory for humanity. They were a testament to the strength of every soldier who had fought, bled, and sacrificed for this moment. Bonner knew that the Varnock might still have some tricks up their sleeves, but they would never break humanity's spirit. Not as long as men like him, and creatures like the Warbeasts, stood ready to fight. Bonner's bond with the Warbeast was unspoken, but it was clear. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was part of something larger, a force that was unstoppable, a force that would carry humanity to victory. The battle was far from over, but in that moment, as the Warbeast tore through the Varnock ranks, Bonner knew one thing for sure. The Warbeasts had not only changed the course of the war, they had changed everything. Humanity's resilience was unmatched, and no enemy could stand in its way. The battlefield raged on, as the war between humanity and the Varnock Empire reached a fever pitch. The sky was filled with flashes of light and explosions, and the once defiant Varnock fleet seemed to be losing ground. But just when it seemed like the Warbeasts and humanity had the upper hand, the Varnock unleashed their deadliest weapon. A massive dreadnought, brimming with advanced AI systems and weapons far beyond anything humanity had seen. The Varnock dreadnought was a colossal beast, a floating fortress that seemed invincible, It loomed in the sky like a dark shadow, casting a grim pall over the battlefield. Its hull was reinforced with the most advanced armor, its weapons capable of decimating entire fleets. The Varnock had placed their hopes on this dreadnought, believing that it would turn the tide of the war in their favor. Humanity's forces, already exhausted and battered from the ongoing battle, could only watch as the dreadnought moved into position. It unleashed devastating waves of energy blasts, sending shockwaves through the battlefield and tearing apart anything in its path. Warships were obliterated, and the Warbeasts were beginning to feel the pressure. The odds seemed insurmountable. Humanity was on the brink of collapse. The Varnock, with their overwhelming firepower and superior technology, appeared unstoppable. But then, something incredible happened. A strange, high-pitched hum filled the air, and the Warbeasts suddenly began to glow. A faint pulse of energy radiated from them. And then, in a brilliant flash, they activated their secret weapon, an EMP pulse. The Warbeasts, built with advanced technology that even the Varnock had never encountered, unleashed an electromagnetic pulse powerful enough to disrupt the AI systems of the Varnock dreadnought. The effects were immediate and devastating. The dreadnought's weapons powered down, its once vibrant AI systems shutting off as if they were nothing more than toys. The Varnock dreadnought, once a symbol of invincibility, was now as vulnerable as any other ship in the fleet. The Varnock were paralyzed, their systems rendered useless, their once unstoppable dreadnought now nothing more than a hulk drifting helplessly through space. Humanity's Warbeasts, now fully unleashed, stormed the dreadnought with explosive speed and power. Their massive claws slashed through the defenses, and their weapons, integrated into their very bodies, fired with deadly precision. The Varnock soldiers aboard the ship were powerless to stop them. The Warbeasts were like unstoppable juggernauts, ripping through the dreadnought's hull and tearing apart its weapons with each strike. Sparks flew in every direction as the Warbeasts collided with the massive ship. The deafening roar of battle filled the air as the Warbeasts fought tooth and nail, their massive forms moving with terrifying grace and power. Every punch, every swipe of their claws sent shockwaves through the ship, and the Varnock were powerless to stop them. The dreadnought, once a symbol of the Varnock Empire's might, was now crumbling under the onslaught of humanity's Warbeasts. The Warbeasts' EMP pulse had turned the tide of the battle, making the Varnock's greatest weapon useless. Now, the battle was in humanity's hands. Bonner, the young soldier who had fought alongside his Warbeast, watched the destruction unfold with a mixture of awe and pride. His Warbeast had been instrumental in disabling the Varnock's AI systems, and now, as they tore through the dreadnought's defenses, Bonner felt a sense of victory unlike any he had ever known. But even in the midst of their triumph, Bonner's heart clenched with worry. His Warbeast, the very creature he had come to rely on, was not unscathed. During the fight, the Warbeast had taken a hit. A massive explosion had knocked it off balance, and now it staggered on its feet, its massive frame covered in smoke and damage. Bonner's grip on the controls tightened as he watched the creature fight to stay upright. He knew that war was a brutal thing. There would always be losses. He had seen his comrades fall, heard their last cries as they gave everything for the cause. But this was different. The Warbeast wasn't just a machine to Bonner. It was his partner, his friend, and the thought of losing it filled him with a sense of dread. As the Warbeast steadied itself, Bonner quickly issued a command, sending the creature back into the fight. The Warbeast was injured, but it wasn't done yet. It had proven its resilience time and time again, and now it would show the Varnock just how powerful humanity's spirit truly was. The battle continued to rage as the Varnock dreadnought began to fall apart. With the AI systems disabled, the once mighty vessel was no longer the unstoppable force it had been. The Warbeasts tore through its defenses, and the Varnock's own weapons turned against them. The once proud fleet of the Varnock Empire was being torn apart, one ship at a time. But even in the midst of their triumph, Bonner couldn't shake the feeling that the war was far from over. The Varnock might have lost their dreadnought, but they were a ruthless enemy, and they wouldn't go down without a fight. He could see the fear in their eyes as their ships were destroyed, but he knew better than to underestimate them. The Varnock were desperate now, and a desperate enemy was always the most dangerous. As the dreadnought's final moments played out in a fiery explosion, Bonner felt a deep sense of pride in what humanity had accomplished. The Warbeasts had turned the tide of the battle, and the Varnock had been shown that no matter how powerful they thought they were, humanity would always fight back. But his joy was tempered by the sight of his Warbeast, now badly damaged. The creature had given everything it had, and Bonner knew it wouldn't last much longer. He reached out, his hand resting on the Warbeast's massive shoulder, and for a moment, the bond between them was stronger than ever. "You did good, buddy," Bonner whispered, his voice filled with emotion. "We've got this. We'll finish it." The Warbeast's glowing eyes flickered, as if it understood him. It wasn't done yet, and neither was Bonner. Together, they would see this battle through to the end, no matter what it took. As the tide of battle turned in humanity's favor, one thing was clear: the Warbeasts had changed everything. With their unmatched strength, resilience, and loyalty, they had become the ultimate weapon in humanity's arsenal, and together they would fight to the very end. The war was far from over, but now humanity had hope. And with hope, they could face anything, even the Varnock Empire. The battle was not yet over, but the Varnock forces had already realized they were in a losing position. Their once imposing fleet had been shattered, their dreadnought was reduced to a smoldering wreck, and their elite soldiers were scattered, retreating in disarray. The Varnock had underestimated humanity and its secret weapon, the Warbeasts. The Warbeasts, unleashed into the fray, had turned the tide of the conflict in ways no one could have anticipated. What had once been a battle for survival had now become a chase. The remaining Varnock forces, realizing they were outmatched, attempted to retreat, hoping to save whatever they could of their shattered army. But the Warbeasts were relentless. They would not allow the Varnock to escape. The battlefield had shifted into a chaotic scene of destruction. Varnock soldiers scrambled to abandon their positions, their once pristine armor now battered and scarred by the relentless assault. Their ships that had once been so mighty were now mere targets for humanity's Warbeasts. The Warbeasts, massive and powerful, moved through the battlefield like unstoppable predators, cutting down any who dared to resist. In the distance, Bonner watched as his Warbeast, his partner in the fight, charged into the fray once more. He felt a deep connection to the creature, his pulse quickening as it moved through the smoke-filled battlefield with deadly purpose. The Warbeast had been through so much, yet it showed no signs of slowing down. It was as if it had been forged for this very moment, for this very fight. The Varnock soldiers were running now, abandoning their weapons, their formations crumbling. Fear was etched on their faces as they fled from the Warbeasts. They had never faced anything like this before. The humans had shown them what true resilience and strength looked like, and now, the Varnock were realizing the cost of their arrogance. The camera zoomed in on one particular Warbeast as it hunted down the remnants of the Varnock army. It was a towering figure, its massive body covered in sleek armor that gleamed in the fading light. Its glowing eyes scanned the battlefield, its senses heightened as it tracked the fleeing Varnock soldiers. Its claws scraped against the ground with each step, sending vibrations through the earth. The tension in the air was palpable as the Warbeast closed in on its prey. The Varnock soldiers were disorganized, running in all directions, but they could not escape the relentless pursuit of the Warbeasts. The Warbeast's movements were swift, and it tore through the remnants of the Varnock's defense with explosive speed. The camera followed the Warbeast as it charged through the Varnock lines, ripping through the soldiers with ease. Each swipe of its claws sent Varnock soldiers flying through the air. The ground trembled with each impact as the Warbeast advanced, its eyes locked on the last few Varnock stragglers who had dared to stand their ground. One by one, the remaining Varnock soldiers fell. The Warbeast's massive fists pounded the earth with crushing force as it sent the fleeing Varnock soldiers sprawling. Their once imposing weapons were useless against the fury of the Warbeasts. The Varnock had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt and fight back, and now they were paying the price. The Warbeasts, with their unparalleled strength and speed, had transformed the battlefield into a slaughterhouse. The air was thick with the scent of destruction as the Warbeasts tore through the last remnants of the Varnock army. The once proud soldiers of the Varnock Empire were no match for the brutal power of humanity's Warbeasts. Bonner's heart raced as he watched his Warbeast pursue the remaining Varnock soldiers. He felt the bond between them, the trust that had grown between the soldier and his companion. It was as if they were one, united in their mission. As the Warbeast tore through the last of the Varnock forces, Bonner couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Humanity had done what seemed impossible. They had fought back against a technologically superior enemy and emerged victorious. The Varnock, now fully aware of the hopelessness of their situation, were desperately trying to flee. Their ships, once capable of dominating the stars, were now scrambling to escape, but the Warbeasts were everywhere. There was no escape. The battlefield was a vast, unforgiving expanse, and the Warbeasts had them cornered. As the last of the Varnock soldiers were hunted down, the camera panned out to show the full extent of the destruction. The once thriving battlefield was now a wasteland, littered with the remains of the Varnock forces. The Warbeasts stood tall, their bodies covered in the marks of battle, but their eyes remained focused and alert. They had done their job. They had crushed the Varnock and proven humanity's strength. But even as the battle raged on, Bonner couldn't help but feel a deep sense of loss. The Warbeasts had brought them victory, but at what cost? He had lost comrades, and the Warbeasts had lost their own kind. But despite the pain, he knew that this was the price of survival. Humanity had won. The Varnock had been defeated, their empire shattered. It was over. The final moments of the battle were marked by the sight of the last Varnock ship escaping into the distance. It was a futile attempt at survival. The Warbeasts, with their superior strength and relentless pursuit, had made sure that there was no escape. The Varnock Empire was no more. The once feared forces of the Varnock had been brought to their knees by humanity's resilience and the power of their Warbeasts. Bonner watched as the smoke cleared from the battlefield. The Warbeasts, their mission complete, stood tall in the aftermath. The earth beneath them was scared, but humanity had emerged victorious. The battle was over, and the war was won. But the cost had been high, and the memories of this fight would linger long after the smoke had cleared. Humanity had shown the galaxy that it was not to be underestimated. The Warbeasts had been the key to their success, but it was the spirit of humanity, their refusal to back down, their unwavering resolve, that had truly won the day. The Varnock had retreated, but humanity had proven that they were a force to be reckoned with. The war was over, but the lessons learned would resonate for generations to come. The war was over. Humanity had won. The battlefield, once a place of chaos and destruction, was now eerily silent. The Varnock Empire, which had once seemed invincible, had been brought to its knees. Their fleets were shattered, their soldiers defeated, and their once unquestioned dominance in the galaxy had crumbled. Earth's Warbeasts had turned the tide in ways that no one could have predicted. But the cost of victory had been steep. Bonner stood in the midst of the aftermath, his face a mask of exhaustion and sorrow. He had fought beside the Warbeasts, and in doing so, had forged an unbreakable bond with them. But that bond had come at a heavy price. His Warbeast, his trusted companion, lay motionless on the battlefield. It had given everything to secure humanity's victory. The massive creature had been the key to their success, its strength and power unmatched by anything the Varnock had ever faced. The emotional weight of Bonner's loss was palpable. The Warbeast had not only been a weapon, it had been a partner, a protector, and a friend. The connection between Bonner and his Warbeast had transcended the physical. They had fought side by side, each relying on the other to survive. And now, That bond had been severed, leaving Bonner with a deep emptiness inside. As he stood before the memorial dedicated to the fallen Warbeasts, Bonner's thoughts drifted back to the battle. He remembered the roar of the Warbeasts as they charged into the fray, their bodies cloaked in sleek armor, their claws tearing through the enemy lines. He remembered the thrill of the fight, the adrenaline coursing through his veins as he and his Warbeast fought together. But now, all that remained was the silence of victory and the painful absence of his companion. The memorial was a solemn place, a tribute to the Warbeasts that had fought and died in service to humanity. It was a place of reflection, where those who had survived the battle could honor the sacrifices made by their comrades. Bonner stood there for what felt like an eternity, his mind racing with thoughts of the future. The battle was over, but the war was far from finished. The Galactic Council, now fully aware of humanity's power, was scrambling to understand the true nature of Earth's military capabilities. The Council had underestimated humanity, believing that their advanced technology and AI-driven forces would be more than a match for the humans. But they had been wrong. Humanity had shown them the power of their warbeasts, genetically enhanced, cybernetic creatures that could turn the tide of any battle. And now, the Council was left to pick up the pieces. Humanity had sent a clear message to the galaxy: do not underestimate us. The Warbeasts were not just weapons. They were a symbol of humanity's resilience, their determination to protect their own. The Galactic Council had thought they could destroy humanity, but instead, they had been forced to face the full force of Earth's might. As Bonner turned away from the memorial, he felt a deep sense of pride. Humanity had proven itself to be a force to be reckoned with. They had fought to protect their world, their people, and their way of life. But in doing so, they had sent a powerful message to the rest of the galaxy: if you push us, we will fight back. And if you threaten us again, we will unleash our warbeasts once more. The camera panned out, capturing the vast landscape of Earth in the distance. The world was peaceful now, the skies clear and calm. But beneath the surface, a quiet tension lingered. The war was over, but humanity's message had been made loud and clear. The Varnock Empire had been defeated, but there were other forces out there, other threats that would one day test humanity's resolve. In the final scene, Bonner stood before the memorial, his eyes fixed on the horizon. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the battlefield. It was a moment of quiet reflection, a moment to honor the fallen and to acknowledge the price of victory. But as the camera zoomed in on Bonner's face, a new sense of determination was visible in his eyes. Humanity had faced a great challenge, and they had emerged victorious. But the future was uncertain, and Bonner knew that Earth's greatest battle was still ahead. The camera then cut to a darkened lab, where the unmistakable sound of machinery echoed through the halls. The doors of a chamber slid open, revealing the new warbeast being awakened. It was massive, its glowing eyes flickering to life as the creature stirred. This new warbeast, the next generation of humanity's secret weapon, was ready for whatever threats lay ahead. The scene shifted back to Bonner, standing tall in front of the memorial, his expression resolute. The warbeasts had given humanity victory, but their purpose was not yet complete. Earth's future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity would continue to fight. They would protect their world and their people, no matter the cost. And if anyone dared to challenge them again, they would unleash their warbeasts once more. The screen faded to black, leaving the audience with the haunting message that humanity's battle was far from over. The warbeasts had proven their power, but Earth's future would depend on the resilience of its people. The final shot lingered on the new warbeast as it stood ready, a symbol of humanity's unwavering determination to protect what was theirs. Humanity had won this battle, but the war was only beginning.